All right, to get started here, we're going to first look at some reference photos of the lava lamp. And here's the lamp we're going to model. And I just thought this was an interesting looking design. And here is the scene that I want is a dark room, and the only source of light is to be the lava lamp itself. So you can see when that happens, we're going to put a material on the base and the top here that's going to be chrome, just like this. But because it's dark, or dark room, and this is the source of light is emanating out from here, this is really not going to render too much, but there might be some reflections. That's why I intend on going ahead and putting the material on there anyway. Here's another reference photo. Each one of these in a dark room, as you can see, you can't really see the base too well. Yeah, so this is what we'll be modeling, so let's get started. Open up Blender. If you have a default cube, keep it there, because we're going to add that. Before we do that, though, let's add, if you hit in on your keyboard, bring up the Properties panel, and go up to Display, or not Display, sorry, Background Images. And we're going to load our reference photo so we have something to model off of. You click Add Image, go to Open, and lamp reference, and I believe, yeah, there it is. Open that up. Now, if you don't see it, hit 1 on your numpad. If you still don't see it, hit 5, because you got to be in orthographic view. And right up here it says front ortho. That's what we want. We can also be in side view on the right ortho. It'll show in both views because we got this over here. It says all views. You can select which one you want: left, right, back, front, bottom, top, all views, and camera. So we even have it on camera view. If you hit 0, numpad 0, that's your camera view. Okay, so what we want to do now, being in front view, let's set our cursor right there. And I'm going to go to side view there, numpad 3, and set a cursor, and I'm going to try to center it up. And this is so I can add a cube. Go up to Shift-A, Mesh, Cube. And you might think, well, why are we doing a cube if this is a, kind of a cylinder type object? And we could model it with a cylinder. You know what, on second thought, I was going to model it with a cube, but I might model it with a cylinder. One of the reasons why I was going to do the cube was because I thought, well, I wanted to demonstrate to you a couple of properties here. One, I mean, if you were going to add a sphere, for instance, let's just add a UV sphere. Take this and move it over, and hit Z for wireframe mode, and scroll in here. Let's look at this cube, or this cylinder or sphere. Sorry, I'm going to rotate it by pressing R, and I'm going to rotate it on the X-axis. So I'm going to press X, and I'm going to rotate it to where we can see the top of it. Okay, now, actually, let's not do it in wireframe mode. Let's go to edit mode by hitting Tab, and we'll zoom in a little bit more, and you can see the top of this cylinder, or this sphere, I'm sorry. It's made up of all triangles here. There's a bunch of triangles. I go to face select mode. You can see there's a triangle, there's a triangle, there's a triangle. And so this is really not very great topology. And especially when you're animating things, you don't want triangles. Try to avoid triangles at all costs. But because it just does not deform well. But even on stationary things, sometimes when you got rounded objects, if we tab back out of edit mode and hit smooth shading on this, it smooths it out, but if you stretch it, let's see, if we were to stretch this, let's rotate it again. So hit Z to go to wireframe mode, rotate X, and then put 90. Now, if we stretch this on the Z axis, so hit Z, size it up by hitting S, and then hit Z. Let's do a little more stretching than that. And tab back out. Oh, sorry. Hit Z for solid mode again. Typically, when you render this, you'll see the triangle show up right up here. It doesn't smooth it out perfectly, especially when you get it really deformed. It's not very smooth. So instead of using a sphere or UV sphere, another option you have is to use a cube and then just add a subsurface modifier and set it up to 2, set smooth shading on, and now we have, if you go up to 3, you'll get even more round. But if we were to stretch this on the same axis, we get a slightly different result. We won't get those triangles up here. And what we can do, if we turn the smooth shading up, or the subsurf up another notch, now they're both about the same amount of vertices, but this one has got better topology, because as you can see, it's all quads, so there's no triangles. Let me just apply that. So now you can see, yeah. And that just makes for better topology than the triangles. So that's what I originally had in mind, was to do that and model it this way. And let's tab out of edit mode. So but now, the more I think about it, I don't want to do it this way. So just consider that a little lesson. On topology. Oops. I think, let's see, let's put the cursor back there and make sure it's centered. So go to side view and make sure it's about centered in front view by hitting numpad 1. And now Shift A, we'll go to mesh and then go up to cylinder. And let's just add a cylinder. And then over here, before you click anything, make sure we change the number of vertices here to 8, because we're going to add a subsurface modifier here to smooth it out, and so we want less vertices to work with. So as you can see how this looks now. And then let's take off cap ends, because we don't want the ends to be capped. All right. So just in case you don't know, if you change the number of vertices, you can see the effect there. So let's go back to 8 on this, hit enter. Now if you click this, if you click something else, like click this lamp up here, now, or no, if we size this or edit this in any way, I think, yeah, now we can no longer change the number of vertices or anything like that. So let's go back to front view by numpad 1. Size this down just a bit, get it roughly that right there. Hit Z for wireframe mode, and then what we want to do is at our widest spot right here, we want to line this up, this bottom part. And then hit Tab to go into edit mode. And let's hit number 3 to make sure we're lined up on both sides. So we're on the right perspective, or right orthographic mode in front. And we're lined up perfectly. So now what we want to do is go to vertex select mode down here. And let's just select that entire edge loop there. And the way to do that is to hold down your Alt button and right click on the line, and it'll select that entire edge loop. Hit S to scale in, and let's move this over just a little bit to line it up with the photo. And then we're going to hit E to extrude. We're going to extrude upward, and we're going to extrude right about there. And now we're going to hit S to size in again. That looks fairly decent. And actually, let's adjust this one more time. So Alt and right click, scale in just a little bit more. Not a whole lot, just enough to smooth it out. All right, now let's select this bottom edge loop, Alt and the right click. And this time we'll hit E to extrude, and we'll go down with it. And we'll go down to right about there. And then S to scale in. In fact, let's go down just a little further. So just drag that arrow down, the blue arrow. We want to be below this baseline here, and we probably should be above this top part here too. Let's scale that in just a little bit more. Right, yeah, that's good enough. Okay, it don't have to be perfect. And grab this and pull this up just a little bit. Okay, there we go. Now Z to go back to solid view. Tab out of edit mode, and now this is what we've got so far. And this is going to be our glass. So what we're going to do, numpad 1 to go back to front view, we're going to set smooth shading. So now let's look at it this way. Now it's not perfectly smooth. There's some rough edges there still, but that's what happens. Now if we, as you can see how this looks here in wireframe mode, if we go over here to add modifier to our properties panel, as you see, make sure this is selected properties, and then you should have all these buttons here. Under this wrench here is modifiers, object modifier, add modifier, go down to Subdivision Surface, and now it says in the viewport it's subdividing it 1 time, so you can see how it's smoothed it out a bit, and that looks fairly decent. I think 1 ought to do it, but let's see what it looks like with 2. I mean, it is going to be glass. We do want it to be really smooth, so let's go ahead and we'll go with 2. And now what we can do is hit apply, and now it is permanent. Okay, so now we have all these vertices to work with. But if we go back into wireframe mode, or I mean edit mode by hitting tab, what we can do is Alt and right select this line right here, and then we can size it out. But before we size it out, we want to go in to proportional editing. And the way to do that is there's a button right down here, and this is your proportional button, and you go to enable. Now enable, let me show you what proportional editing does. Now there's 2 ways to do that. You can either hit this and go up to enable, or you can just hit O on your keyboard. O brings in proportional editing. Now, if we hit S to size it, you'll see that there's a sphere of influence. Now, if we hit your, if you use your scroll wheel or page up, page down on your numpad key, you can increase the sphere of influence. And what that does is now, if we size this out, everywhere where that sphere is, it influences the size to a certain degree, and you can adjust the fall off for your size too. Now I'm going to say right about there looks pretty decent. And the way you adjust the fall off is right beside this button for proportional editing. There's also this here. Now here's your fall off. Is right now we got it set to smooth, which is what we want. But you can also, you're setting sphere, root, sharp, linear, constant, and random. And all these, you can experiment with them and see how they work. I'm not going to go into detail right now. Okay. Let's see where to. Okay, we've got our glass, because this is this portion right here. Let's go ahead and name it while we've got it. Tab out of edit mode and go over here to properties panel, and this little block here. This is your object. I think it's object data. And where it says cylinder, we're going to change the name of that to glass. We'll just give it something meaningful. Now you'll see up here in your outliner, it is also changed the name up there. So now when we select, if you select like different objects, it'll select the glass when you select glass. Makes it easier to find. Now we're going to model each of these, the bottom and the top, separately, and then we can join them later if we want or not. It doesn't matter because we're not really going to be moving it. I mean, I could have just went through and extruded it and do vertex groups, but I think for simplicity we'll just model them separately. Okay, now let's go ahead and set our cursor right there, and then go in side view and set our cursor there, and yeah, it's close enough. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered because we'll just adjust it. So now Shift A, and this time we will add, well, we'll add another cylinder, and then once again set this down to 8. And then we'll go over here to our modifiers and add a subdivision surface. And we're going to leave it at 1. Now what we want to do, let's get that cursor out of the way, is tab into edit mode, hit Z for wireframe mode, and let's scroll in here, get a little closer. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to select just this top edge loop of the box here. But one thing, we don't want it to look like this. See how it, or no. Let me think here. I don't think of it this way before. I think I used a, no, I did use a cylinder. Okay. Select this entire edge loop here by Alt and right clicking on the line. Oops. And it'll select that top edge loop. And now, because we have a subdivision surface modifier on, we can, let me go out of wireframe mode so you can see the effects. Since we have this entire edge loop selected up here, we can adjust the median crease, the mean crease, and that will affect how the surface modifier divides up the mesh. So what we do is on your properties panel here, on the in panel, at the very top, under transform, should be median and mean crease. If we turn that crease all the way up, see how it affects that? Oops, didn't get it all the way up. And that's what we want right there. So we want it to be affected just like that. And now, with the bottom, we're going to do a slightly different thing. We're going to select the entire thing, and even shift select. So hold down shift and select that one too. And let's go back to front view by numpad 1. Let's go into wireframe mode so we can see how everything looks. And let's just grab this arrow here. Oops, I've still got proportional editing on. Okay, hit O again to get out of proportional editing. And now we'll just pull this down right about here. And then S to size it in. And what I'm looking at is I'm not looking at these the highlighted lines, but I'm looking at these darker lines behind in there, because that's where the subsurface modifier, that's when I apply the modifier, that's where it's actually going to be. You can click this button over here, apply modifier during edit mode, and it will do that same thing. So we can see where we're actually going to be when we hit apply. But it makes it easier to edit it without that button over here selected. So we can just, it makes it easier just to size it down. Somewhere in there, that's good enough, I think. Okay, now let's go ahead and hit that button there before we commit ourselves here. Let's go out. Let's go into object mode there. And I may have forgotten to explain this too. If you're new to Blender and never used it before, object mode is right down here, and you can select edit mode this way and several other modes as well. But tab takes you into edit mode and it toggles back and forth between object and edit mode. Let's see, we'll set smooth shading. So over here in our tools panel, and if you don't have this panel over here, I should explain this earlier. Hit T on your keyboard and it will bring up that panel as well. So T for tools panel, set smooth shading, and now it's smooth. We can see what what it's going to look like, the final product. Obviously I don't have this up high enough, so we need to raise this up a bit, right about there. And then let's go back to mode by tab, and then just bring this down to right about there. Okay. And now, let's see, tab, or no, not tab. Hit A for all to deselect all. A also selects all. So, but we want to deselect all. So now, if we need an edge loop in here, so we need a couple edge loops. So let's go ahead and commit to this and tab out of edit mode real quick, and then hit apply over here on the subsurface modifier. You can't do it in edit mode. You can't apply it, so that's why I had to tab out. Now we're going to go back into edit mode, and there's one of the reasons why I did that, because I was thinking there should have been an edge loop here, and there is. So now all we need to do is adjust this edge loop. And the reason why we're wanting to do this, go Z to wireframe mode, is we want to extrude these feet, the legs, out. And the way to do that, we want this edge loop to line up with the bottom of this here. So what we do is just Alt and right click that edge loop, drag that down, and of course it's the wrong size now, so it's making this base wider. So all we have to do is hit S to size it in and bring it in. Somewhere in there. Maybe that's a little too much. Size it out just a little bit. Okay, now that's where our one edge loop. Now we also need, for the top of this, we need another edge loop. So with our mouse hovering over this, we can either hit Control R, and that will add a loop cut, or we can just go over here to our Tools panel and hit Loop Cut and Slide. But I always use Control R, so hold this over the mesh, Control R, and now you get this purple line. And if you left click once, just once, you can still adjust it. That sets it where the direction you want. And then if you drag this up here to right about there, yeah, right there. Okay, and just right click again, or left click again, and now that sets it. One thing I want to do too, well, like I say, it don't have to be perfect. I was going to size this in and make it more accurate, but it doesn't really matter. All right, now that we've done that, the next thing we want to do is extrude this down here. So let's just scroll here. Let's go back into solid mode and grab that bottom. Actually, we need to grab the entire loop cut. So Alt and right click, Alt, right click, Shift, Alt, and right click on that next one. Shift, Alt, and right click, 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 and Shift, Alt, and right click. And then just Shift and click this middle one. And, oh, I missed a vertex. Okay, you can get that. So we want this entire bottom part done. It probably would have been easier if I would have just box selected it or something. Okay. One, to go back into our solid or our front view. And now we're going to hit E to extrude and pull this down just a little bit. And then we're going to size it in to right about there. And we're going to hit E to extrude again. Now we extruded that down a little bit. Size it in just a little bit. And now extrude, and then just left click. Don't move the mouse any. And then size it in some more. I'm just guesstimating here. And then hit E to extrude and drop straight down. And we'll have to adjust this. So this is the chord. And somewhere in there. Looks good. Size it in a little bit more, where the chord gets skinnier. First time I saw that, I thought it was like an antenna or something, and then I realized, oh, this lava lamp has to be plugged in somewhere. Okay, so now just tab out just to see what this looks like. Okay, tab back in. One, front view, and now, what do we want to do here? Oh, Okay. But now, before we extrude the legs out, we're going to do something that you might think, if you're new to Blender or the 3D world, you might think is a little strange, but we're going to delete 3/4 of this mesh. So the way we do that is Z to wireframe mode, A to deselect all, and something I want to, so we can see this a little better, is this glass mesh up here is kind of getting in the way. So if we go over here to our outliner, where it says glass, just click that little eyeball, and that gets that out of the way. So now we can see it better. And what we want to do is we're going to do a box select, and we're going to select all the vertices this side of the center. So the way to do that is hit B to box and get it really close, because these vertices way down here are not, we got to get them too. So we're going to get it real close, right about there, and just box select that entire side like that. And just kind of look it over, make sure that it's all even, and zoom in here and try to make sure this is all even too. And it looks like it may have missed a couple. The only way to find out though is just to hit X and delete those vertices. And I think it did. We got a couple stragglers there. But that's simple enough. Just select them, hit X, and delete those. Now, 1 to go back into front view, zoom out. Okay, that looks decent. Now we need to hit 3 to go to side view and do the same thing with this side. So B to box select, get it really close, right about there. Hope that's not too close. And that looks fairly decent. Perfect. Hit X and delete vertices. And I hit 1 to go back into front view. Let's zoom out a little bit. Just show you what this looks like. Hit Z to go to solid. So now you can see what it looks like. All right, now we also want to make this hollow on top, so we're going to delete all these faces. So let's go to face select mode down here, and just right-click on all these faces. Oops. There we go. X, delete. Oh, wait a minute. X, and then go down to faces, and delete only the faces. Now, hit 1, and we can see this here. Now, the reason why we did that is so we can save ourselves half of the work. What we'll do now is go over to the properties and the modifiers panel, and go down to mirror and add a mirror modifier. And since it has on the x-axis selected, it mirrors it. So everything we do now will be copied to the other side, so we only have to do it once. Okay, so but we also want to select Y, and that will fill it out completely. Now we'll go back and hit 1, and we want to select a face here. Oh, let me select this face here. I hit 1 again. And this time, we're just going to hit E to extrude. And I've got that line there, and that's the my axis, and I don't want that, so I'm going to get rid of that by hitting Z. If you have that line, go ahead and hit X, Y, or Z, and you may have to hit them a couple of times to get rid of it. But you want it to be free, so we can move it in any way we want. But you see how it's mirroring on the other side now? What we want to do is we want to kind of line it up with this leg here. And one thing, let's go to wireframe mode so that way we can see it better. And then we're going to hit R to rotate, kind of rotate it that direction, like so. And then S to size it down. And then we're going to hit E to extrude again and get rid of that line. Right about there. R to rotate. S to size it down. And I'm going to G to grab and move it right up, just adjust it a little bit right there. And now E to extrude again. Get rid of that wireframe or that axis. And right about there. R to rotate. S to size it down. And then E to extrude again. R to rotate. S to size. And then, let's see, E. R to rotate. S to size. And one last time, E. Okay, now that we've got that, let's just scroll around here and look at Z to go into solid so you can see what the mesh looks like. We've got our 2 legs here. Of course, know that we're not. This thing's got to be standing on at least 3 legs, if not 4. So we've got to do the same thing with here. We've got to extrude another leg coming out of there. So we're going to do that now. So if 1 is front view, let's go to wireframe mode. If we hit 3, we can just move that image over so we can copy it on this side now. So let's go ahead and do that. E to extrude and rotate. R to rotate. Oh. S to size. And G to grab to adjust it. And size it down a little more. There we go. E to extrude. Oh, oops. The screencasting is off. Or screencast keys, sorry. There we go. Now, E to extrude again. Ooh. Oops. Okay. Let's tab out to look at it. This leg here is a little thick. So we'll just have to tab back in, hit A to select all, and then we don't want to do this here. If we move this bar, grab this red arrow here and move it in, it will decrease this, but it'll also decrease this. So we don't want to do that. So let's hit C. Oh wait, no, let's hit Z to go into wireframe, and then C for circle select, and hold down the Alt key while pressing it, and it'll deselect these things. So let's deselect these faces here. That ought to do it. Now go back into solid and move this over just a bit, like so. And it's good enough for now. And then we just made this out of round a little bit, so now we got to reselect that. So let's go down to vertex select mode, select this edge loop, and pull this out. And then make it round again. Or it's close to round. Like I say, I'm not going to worry too much. This is just to get you started. I'm trying to take it slow. So you can, if you're new, you can keep up. This foot down here looks like it needs to be in a little bit more, so what we'll do, shift select these vertices here, and then just push them in. There we go. And we tighten that up a bit. Okay. Now it looks pretty good. All right. Go back to 1 for front view. And now what we want to do is we want to add a subsurface modifier. And we don't want to apply this just yet. The mirror modifier, we'll apply it here in a little bit. But let's turn on subsurface modifier. And here on your hierarchy, on your modifiers tab, you've got a hierarchy, and the order of these modifiers can change the properties. That's why it's important to pay attention to the hierarchy here, is because the properties can change based on the modifier stack here. So to move things up and around, like I just put the subsurface modifier above the mirror modifier here by pushing this up button. If I push the down button, it puts it back below it. So sometimes you want it to be divided before you apply a mirror, sometimes afterwards. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but a lot of times it does. And if you're having trouble with when you apply modifiers sometimes, and you wonder why something's not working, check your stack and make sure that the modifiers are in the right order. Okay, now, I digressed a bit. Where was I? Okay. This is looking pretty good. Oh, yeah. The reason why we're putting a subsurf on there is to smooth it out a bit. As you can see, when I apply it at level 1, it smooths it out some. To get a little more detail about that. And the reason why I'm not applying the mirror modifier just yet is because I want to select these faces here. And the way I want to do that, just go to face load. And if I press Alt and right click right here on this line, it selects the entire face there, just like that. And now what I want to do is I want to deselect these faces right here. So once again, we'll just hit Z, go to wireframe, C to circle select, Alt, hold down Alt, and deselect these faces. Okay, now what I'm doing here is I want to square these up a bit so when we apply our subsurf, it doesn't smooth everything out. We don't want everything smooth. Go up here to the top on our in panel and turn the mean crease all the way up. Or mostly all the way up. Let's turn it to about 950 or so. That way a little more of an edge here. And you can see that effect if I really turn up the subsurf, you can see how that works even more. It causes that to be sharper, a sharper edge. See, it'll smooth out if I turn the mean crease down and sharpens out. I want to do that. So at about 950 or 0.950, and that ought to give me a good crease there. That's way too many vertices. I'm not going to subdivide it that many times. I'm going to subdivide it one time. Oops. And then now tab out of edit mode. And it's looking pretty decent. And let's just apply the mirror modifier. And I don't know if I'm going to bother applying the subsurface just yet, if ever. Just leave it over here in the stack. It doesn't matter. So that way I can always adjust it if I want. And if I want to adjust renders and turn up the render amount. So this way, in the viewport, we have to work with this many vertices, but it'll render more vertices and smooth it out a little bit more if we turn it up to 2. Okay, now we've got our bottom part done. We can name this from cylinder. So let's go back over here to object data and change the name of this to base. And let's put our glass back on. So there's our glass. Looks like there is an issue here. It's not even for some reason. I don't know why that is. What's going on here? Oh, it could be because of the glass. Oh no, that's not. I'm glad I've seen that. Okay, we got to select our. Oops. Let's go down here to vertex select mode, right on the line. Alt and right click, and then we got to turn up our mean crease there too, as well, to 1. Now, okay, now we've got rid of that deformity, and let's size this up just a little to where it's over the glass. Maybe reposition it slightly. Okay, now something we want to do as well is extrude this in. So having this whole edge loop selected, which it already is, we'll just hit E to extrude and S to size in, and size it in somewhere around there. So we don't have to go all the way in. In fact, we don't want to go all the way in because I'm going to put a light in here and it's going to be shining up through, and I don't want that to block the light. So we just get it to where it's covering the gap there. And now let's even this up a little bit more. Right about there. looks halfway decent. Okay, now, as for our top portion, we're going to make our little hat up here. So that's fairly simple. Put our cursor up there with the left click. Make sure it's centered. Okay, so now that we've got our cursor set, we're just going to Shift and A and add. Going to add a cube. Okay. Now we're going to do like I did earlier, and well, like I was going to do earlier. We're actually going to use a cube, and it's important that we use a cube this time to make this shape, and I'll show you why. So it's to do with the topology again, and let's go to add modifier, subsurface modifier, turn it up to 2, level 2, turn on smooth shading, and then tab into edit mode, and let's go zoom in here, and this time we're gonna select. Let's go to vertex select mode. Select this entire edge loop here, or well, could have just done that whole face, and we are going to size that in right about there. Pull it up. Oh, let's go Z wireframe mode, and then select this bottom edge loop, and let's turn up the mean crease on it all the way up to 1, just like that. So we get something like that. All right, now, and then just size this in somewhere like that. Okay. Tab out of edit mode, and we'll have a look at that. It's not too bad. All right, now the reason why I'm doing that is because reference video or photo here, there's actually an extrusion here in the center, and kind of makes it look like an arrow. So we're going to do that same thing. And oh, in this case, no, we need to be in object mode, and then go ahead and apply our subsurf, and now tab back into edit mode, and now we can select our faces here. Hold on a minute, let's undo that a minute. Control Z to undo. Add the subsurf again. Let's do a level 1 and see what happens. Or maybe a level 3. Maybe that's what it is. Oh, gotta get out of edit mode. Yeah, let's try level 3. Make it more smooth, and 1 to go to front view, and then we can just go to face select mode, select this, just go right on this line and Alt and right click, and it'll select that entire edge loop all the way around it. Even does it underneath. Now we don't want it underneath, but we're going to select that one, and we're going to select the one right beside it as well. So Shift and Alt and right click on that line. Now we got both of those. Now let's deselect these bottom ones. Let's hit C for circle select. Press Alt, hold down Alt. Oops, went a little too far with that. And just Shift and select that one again. Now, should have something that looks like that. And now what we're going to do is just extrude that out. So E to extrude, S to size, and I got that axis line on there, so I'm going to hit Z to get rid of that. And then just extrude this out. Something like that. Now, tab out of edit mode. You can get an idea of what it looks like. That looks pretty good. I think I'm going to leave it smooth. I think I'm going to leave it just like it is. I could have done the mean crease on it again and make it sharp edge. Well, no, let's go ahead and do that. Let's turn the mean crease up and see what that looks like. Yeah, it's a little better. A little sharper. Okay, now, back to front view. And voila. There is our mesh. Let's put Control S to save. And then, let's see. Now let's change the name of this from cube and name it as top. There we go. Now we need to add some materials. So let's go ahead and start with this one, and we'll just click over here on the Materials tab, add new, and on this one here, see, this is our top. The top and the base are going to be the same. So let's just call this material body, because we're going to make it both of these the same. All right, now we want to change the diffuse color here. I've already got one color I selected. Oh well, actually no, we're going to leave default on this one because we're going with a chrome look. So we're just going to leave it right there as default. Specularity, we're going to leave it default. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn on our mirror. So we'll go down to there, turn on mirror, and then we're going to turn the reflectivity up to somewhere in somewhere around there. So if we look at it, see the ball there, see the mirror, and for now, because we haven't set up lighting yet, I don't think we need to set up anything else. Now we can, that was the material, but now we got to put a texture to it, because the mirror, it won't look quite right. I mean, if we just rendered it now, oh, well, we haven't even set up the camera view. I thought I did, but apparently I didn't. Back here. Okay, now, and let's hide the camera. Oh, too close. Okay, now if we've rendered it, we don't have any lights or enough lights. But we're already getting some reflection there because we have the mirror on, but you know, it's not really reflecting much. We need to give it something to reflect. So, I'll just show how this works. Let's take this light here and turn this into a sun lamp, and then I'm gonna have it, we'll rotate it a little bit, give it some angle. Rotate it this way as well. It doesn't matter where you place the sun lamp. The sun comes from a universal spot. It's kind of omnipresent, I guess you would say. It's just the direction that you angle it is what matters. But the sun is way off in the distance, so even if I put it here, it's actually, you know, I can put it underneath the mesh and it will still work. I know that might be a bit confusing, but the angle of the sun is coming this direction. Okay, so now let's turn up our environment lighting up a little bit too. Let's turn on environment lighting and turn it to about a point, somewhere around there. That's a simulation of bounce lighting or global illumination. It's a way of faking it, really. The new Blender Cycles render engine is much better, and it will actually do real bounce lighting, so we don't have to fake it anymore. But for the time being, I'm going to do all my materials in this. Okay, so now we need to give it something to reflect. So if we select our mesh there and go to the texture panel, and hit new, and change this from clouds to image or movie. I like to hit both so we can see whatever image we load as well as the result. And then let's go to open, and I'm going to load an HDRI image, and this one's going to be the night sky. It's a skyline, like I can't tell where that's at, it's so small. Could be New York, or it's not Chicago. We'll load that image, and you can get HDRI images. Just Google them or something, and you can find free ones that you can use in your projects. They're high dynamic range imaging, and they're really large files, but they give you a lot of data to work with. So we're going to use this as a reflector. So we're going to change the mapping type, not that one, mapping type to where are we? What on earth? Oh, I was in the world view. I think I just loaded the image here. Yeah, I did. Okay. I'll have to redo that. Let me delete that texture. It was setting the texture up from the world view, and I don't want that. So you got to be careful when you click world. Don't click texture right afterwards, or it'll set the texture up for the world. If you click the material tab and then click texture, now we can set up our texture for this. So image or movie. Go to both. Now it's making sense. All right, now image. Since I already opened the image, it should be right here. There it is. And let's change. And then change under mapping, change generated to reflection. And on this one, I've already played around with it before, so I know I want to set it to tube. So I'm going to set this from flat to tube because this is a cylinder or a tube, so we want it to reflect like that. And then we're going to turn off diffuse coloring because we don't want it to affect the diffuse color. Now we want it to the mirror and the ray mirror. So, and we'll leave them all the way up at 100%. So now this will reflect this image. And if we render it, we should see some results here. Yeah, it's a little darker. Because it's reflecting the background as well as it has a slight influence of this image here. Now, if we had other things in our scene that it could reflect off of, we would get a different reaction. And in fact, we need to add a plane for this thing to set on. Since we're done modeling this, before I get into that, let me go ahead and select the base here, and then go ahead and add a material for that. And we're just going to add the same material. So we're going to click on this thing over here and then go down to body. And then now there's two users of that same material. They both have the same material. So if I render it now, they'll both look alike. And you can see the reflections there a little better on that base than you could on the top. You can see how that image is giving certain reflections. But it's also reflecting the dark ground. You can't really, I mean, it looks gray right now, but it's reflecting that, since there's really nothing in the scene to reflect. So now let's give it a floor for this thing to sit on. So 1 and 3, so we can center up that cursor. And now if we shift an A and add a plane, and then size that plane up to right about there, and then go to camera view, and we want to size the plane up on the x-axis. So hit X after you hit S, and size it up to where it's just out of sight of the camera. And then we're going to size it up on the y-axis. And let's hit G to grab, and Y for the axis to move it on. And let's move it right about there. Okay. And now go out of camera view, and let's hit Tab, go into edit mode, and let's select this line back here. So let's go to edge select mode and select just this line. Why isn't it doing that? Oh, there we go. Select just that line. And now we're just going to hit E to extrude, and we're going to extrude it straight up. And hit Z to keep it on the Z-axis. And go back to camera view. We want to raise this up to where it's actually outside of camera view. Oh, I forgot to size this. All right, well, let's shift select all of these. And now let's hit S, and let's hit X. And let's make this wider to where it fills up the entire camera. So now we've got a backdrop. Now we want to smooth out our backdrop, so we're going to add a subsurf modifier. Okay, and we're going to put it at level 2, or no, let's put it up at level 3. Okay. And let's tab out of edit mode, hit smooth shading over here on the tools panel. So now we got something that looks like this. So, but the problem is it's rounded. You're getting this, you know, this part is not in the camera view. So what we want to do is just turn up our mean crease. So let's tab back into edit mode, select this top line here, select these two sides, and turn up our mean crease there. And then we're going to select this, this, and this, and turn up our mean crease there. And, well, actually, let's turn up all, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Now, camera view. Oops. Tab back out. Camera view. And now the backdrop is completely in the view of the camera. Now let's add a material to it. Go to the Materials tab, add New. And then we can just make it slightly darker. So just change the diffuse color to somewhere in there. Looks good. Okay, now let's render that real quick and see what it looks like. Now, of course, we're going to make it darker, so we don't have to tweak these materials too much because you're not really going to see most of this. But I do want some reflections in there because it does show up a little bit, makes it a little more realistic. So now we want to add our material to our glass here. And just as a quick tip too, see how long this is taking to render this single image. If you want to speed up your renders a bit, you can, if you hit Shift and B, you can box select only what you want to render in the camera view. And now if you hit F12 to render, it'll only render what you selected in the box. That way it'll speed up the process. If you're just testing your scene out and you want to see what it looks like rendered, only a small portion of it, something you changed, you don't want to wait for the whole thing to render, just Shift and B. And then select, but you have to have your camera view selected too. So you have to be in camera view. So there we go. Okay, now, so Shift and B again to select the entire thing. And that's how you go back to rendering the entire scene. It's just make sure the box is selected on the incomplete outside of the camera view. Okay, now, material for our glass. If you've never worked with transparent materials, well, this is how you do it. We just add a new material. We'll name it glass because it's good to name everything. And okay, on this one, I want to change the color too. I'm going to change the color to kind of a purplish color. Somewhere. I'm just going to put in the hex number here that I've already selected what I want my color to be. FF 009E. Okay, this is the color I want. Now we're going to leave specularity the same. We're going to leave our shaders at Lambert and Corktor, or Cooktor, I'm sorry. And on this one, we're going to set our translucency all the way up to 1. And we're going to set transparency. Transparency, we're going to set it down to, oh, it's not going to go all the way down. It's going to go to about 100 or so, or 0.100. Oop. 0.106, that's good enough. And you can see there's a slight, it shows up slightly. That way the color stays in. If I go completely transparent, it won't have that color. But we want it to be, you know, colored glass. Oh, and this should be set to ray trace, by the way. And that way we can change our index of refraction here. The index of refraction, we're going to set that up to 1.4. And what that does is that just changes, well, you can see the look here, how it changes. It's like the thickness of the glass. Water has a 1.3 index of refraction. For different types of glasses and things, you can Google it, index of refraction of glass or water, and you can get the accurate values that you want to put in there. And another thing we want to do is turn on, go down here to our shadow and receive transparent, because I want it to receive things all the way through the glass, light coming through, bouncing around and things, just for a safety thing. I'm not entirely sure I have to turn it on for the glass itself. You do for other objects, but since it's not completely transparent, I wanted to do that. Let me think here. Oh, and for this same thing, we're going to turn on our mirror. We're going to add some reflection here too. So might just turn the mirror all the way up. I'm not sure how I did this before. I'm trying to remember if I turned it all the way up or not. Now let's add our texture. Add a new texture. Go to image or movie. Both. And here's our glass so far, how it looks. Let's go to image. Let's select that same night image that we used for before. Turn off color and diffuse, and turn on mirror and ray mirror. Okay, and and mapping. Let's change our mapping to reflection. And we can leave this at flat. Okay, now the reason why you turn that on reflection is if you move the camera, it will also change the reflection on the glass itself. So that's why we set up our mapping like this. Okay. Now, I think that's fair for now. Let's see how that looks rendered. I mean, we still got some lighting set up, which would change everything. Lighting is everything. I may have the mirror turned up way too high on that. Looks like I do. Yeah, that's way too reflective. Just get out of that by pressing escape. Let's turn the mirror way down to where it's just a little bit of influence. Oh, I'm going to collapse these so that way I can see my when I change the mirror. You can also grab these and move them up so I can get it closer to that, and then I can see the effect it has there. So I'm going to turn the reflectivity down some more. Okay, and on this I'm going to turn up the Fresnel value a bit too. I'm going to turn this up to 0.9, and then the blend factor I'm going to put at 1.879. That's what I had it on my other render, so I'm just going to copy those values. Now we're getting a different effect here. You can see that. And there should only, see now the glass is transparent and it should have only slight reflections. Okay, yeah, we're seeing the backdrop through that glass, and you're seeing a little bitsy reflections here and there. It's subtle, but it makes a difference. Okay, I'm gonna not let that render all the way, taking up too much time. Okay, now I'm gonna say that's it for this part of the tutorial, and then we'll move on to lighting next, and lighting and actually get into the metaballs, which is what this tutorial is all about. So, yeah, I'll leave that to finish off this part.